So Sammy Watkins is saying that the Bills were looking to trade for him. Brandon Beane is saying that's not true at all. Whatever the case might be, I'm glad we didn't get him. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Believers Talk. My name is Joe, and welcome to this rumor edition of Believers Talk, where we take a look at a recent rumor going around about our Buffalo Bills, and we ask ourselves, is it true? Is there any validity to the statement, and what do we really actually think? Again, thank you guys for joining me on Believers Talk. My name is Joe. If you're new to this channel, guys, please be sure to hit that subscribe button for continual Buffalo Bills news. If the Buffalo Bills are in the news, you know that we're going to cover it right here on Believers Talk. So hit that subscribe button. After you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell. YouTube will notify you when we put out new content. And guys, while you're here, hit that thumbs up button and like this video. Also, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the topic at hand. And that, of course, is Sammy Watkins. Recently, Sammy Watkins was on Bleacher Report. He did an article with them, and he stated that the Buffalo Bills, prior to trading for Stefon Diggs, were interested in trading for Sammy Watkins. Now, before we get into that, before we get into why it could be correct or true and why I don't think it is, we're going to tell you a little bit more about Sammy Watkins. Let's remind everyone who Sammy Watkins is and the kind of history that he has with the Buffalo Bills. Sammy Watkins is a wide receiver currently in the NFL. Prior to playing NFL football, he played his college ball at the University of Clemson. He was a Clemson Tiger. While at the University of Clemson, he actually broke the record for most receptions in 3 seasons. He only spent 3 seasons with the Clemson Tigers before he went out into the 2014 NFL draft. And in the 2014 NFL draft, our Buffalo Bills traded up from the 9 spot all the way up to number 4 to draft Sammy Watkins. I remember that draft like it was yesterday. I was still upset about that. The whole process, when we moved up to 4, I thought we were going to get someone like a Khalil Mack. We get Sammy Watkins, and the reason why I was upset about personally is because if you remember the 2014 wide receiver class, it was a pretty deep draft class, and it's proven to be true with the on-field play of these wide receivers. You look at Sammy Watkins, he was, of course, there. You look at Mike Evans, he was going to be available in that draft. I believe he would have been available at 9. Maybe he was taken at 7. But you still could have drafted only a little bit up only a little bit, and got him. Kelvin Benjamin was available. Odell Beckham Jr. was in this draft class. Jarvis Landry was in this draft class. So plenty of really talented wide receivers who are making a name for themselves today in the NFL available in this draft class, and we still trade up, trading away our first in 2015 and our 4th in 2015 to move up to get Sammy Watkins. So the Buffalo Bills drafted Sammy Watkins in 2014 with the 4th overall pick. And in his 3 seasons with the Buffalo Bills, many Bills fans would say he was a bust. He wasn't terrible. He didn't put up, awful numbers, but due to injuries and due to the fact that we traded up to get him in the 1st round, there were higher expectations than what he produced. In 37 games with the Buffalo Bills, so remember, he played 3 seasons with the Buffalo Bills, playing 37 games, so that's just over 12 games a season. That means that on average, he missed 4 games a season. That's not something you want to see or hear out of the 4th overall pick. But in 37 games, he had 37 starts. In those 37 starts, 153 receptions, and that equates to about a little over 4 receptions a game. Again, you want more production out of a 1st round talent, out of a 1st round wide receiver. 2,459 yards and 17 touchdowns. So again, not terrible, right? It's not like he Ryan Leafed it or anything like that, but not the numbers you want out of your number 4 overall pick, a pick that you traded away future assets for. That puts a lot of pressure on a young player, especially a guy like a wide receiver at Sammy Watkins, and he just couldn't live up to that potential. So then after 3 seasons with the Buffalo Bills hired Coach Sean McDermott, and the Buffalo Bills trade Sammy Watkins to the LA Rams for I believe, a second-round pick. There was other things, and EJ Gaines as well. I think it was Sammy Watkins and like a 6th or 7th-round pick for EJ Gaines and a second-round pick. So the Buffalo Bills trade Sammy Watkins in 2017. And since that trade, I'm not going to lie, Sammy Watkins has not had a bad career, right? It's not been, again, it hasn't been anywhere near number 4 overall pick type numbers, but he hasn't had a bad career in the 3 seasons since he's left Buffalo, whether it be with the Rams or with the Chiefs. He's appeared in the Super Bowl twice, including a win or winning a Super Bowl championship with the Chiefs this past season. So again, if you're Sammy Watkins, you're enjoying a mediocre career, maybe a little above mediocre, but you also have to remember with the Rams, with the Chiefs, he hasn't been the number 1 guy, right? With the Chiefs in 2019, he had a breakout week 1 against the Jaguars with 3 touchdowns, I believe it was, and didn't have a single touchdown the rest of the season. Now, he had a decent postseason, including the game-clinching touchdown against the Titans in the AFC Championship game, but not a great season still. 3 touchdowns all week 1, and then after that, he kind of was just in or out with the Kansas City Chiefs. But that's the type of wide receiver Sammy Watkins can be. He can be a threat at times, and he'll definitely burn you if you're not paying attention to him. But I don't think Sammy Watkins has the capabilities of being a number 1 wide receiver. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Now that Sammy Watkins is kind of getting a little bit into his own in his NFL career, would you give Sammy Watkins another shot at a number 1 wide receiver job, or do you think he's somewhere with like a 3 or 4 wide receiver? Again, let me know in the comment section. So again, Bleacher Report recently had an interview with Sammy Watkins, and it was a really long piece. If you want to check it out, I would recommend it. Actually, it's kind of enlightening as far as what Sammy Watkins believes. If you like looking at more than just the player's aspect, like what he thinks, how he moves, how he does his things on and off the field. Really a good piece done by Bleacher Report. Now, you might say some of Sammy Watkins' takes on life are a little bit wacko, and I wouldn't disagree with you, but he feels good, right? And that's what's most important as a person, right? From person to person, as long as you feel good in what you believe in and you are happy with that, then really that's the best for you, and best of luck to you as far as I'm concerned. I don't have to believe what you believe. I don't have to like what you like, but if you're happy in that and you really are not trying to spread negativity, who am I to crash down on you and say, hey, this isn't right, or hey, you're a little out of whack? Good for Sammy Watkins. But again, in this piece, Sammy Watkins alludes to the idea that the Buffalo Bills were actually seeking him instead of seeking Stefon Diggs earlier this offseason when we traded our first overall pick, or our first round pick in the 2020 NFL draft for Stefon Diggs. And whether that's true or not, we're going to get into that. But again, if you looked at the whole piece, Sammy Watkins talks a lot during this piece, and he does say some pretty bad things about the Buffalo Bills, including Coach McDermott. He says that when Coach McDermott came to the Buffalo Bills, he just felt McDermott's negative energy. Now, I don't know what he's talking about. I love Coach McDermott on the Buffalo Bills, and I'm sure a lot of you do too, but he just felt some negative energy around Coach McDermott, whether that was him feeling that energy or whether that was Coach McDermott giving off that energy. He just felt this energy around Coach McDermott, so he wanted traded. Even though it says in the piece he never demanded a trade, he says while he was at St. John Fisher's, he was actually praying for a trade, and it sounded like Coach McDermott heard his prayers when he was traded to the now LA Rams for EJ Gaines and that second-round draft pick. And again, in the 3 seasons since then, decent career for Sammy Watkins, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and that Super Bowl ring. So when Sal Capaccio asked Brandon Beane about this, right, about this Bleacher Report article earlier today, Brandon Beane adamantly denies any allegations that Sammy Watkins or the Buffalo Bills were seeking Sammy Watkins before they sought after Stefon Diggs. Now, we have to remember, just because Sammy Watkins says the Buffalo Bills were seeking him, that doesn't mean that he meant the Buffalo Bills were seeking him at the same price tag as a Stefon Diggs, right? Let's say we could have got Sammy Watkins for a 4th, right? Or maybe a 4th and a 6th next year, something like that. Would you take that kind of deal? Now, would it answer all of our questions at wide receiver? Maybe not. But then you have that 22nd overall pick. You can get a stud wide receiver, right? You can get a Van Jefferson, you get a Chenault, a Higgins, whatever have you, and you have that veteran, taller wide receiver in Sammy Watkins, and then you get a star wide receiver in the draft. It could have worked out that way. However, Brandon Beane completely denies any allegations of this being true, says that this is 100% false. And Brandon Beane normally doesn't use that type of language, that type of those type of words where he's kind of attacking, going back on the offensive on other players or other rumors. So to hear this from Brandon Beane was a little shocking. Normally he tries to avoid saying anything that's 100% absolute, and this time he did. So it kind of makes you believe that Sammy Watkins was not 100% accurate when talking about the Buffalo Bills seeking him out. But we need to talk about everything. We need to look at this in a full scope and say, why would Brandon Beane deny this so adamantly when he normally doesn't? Well, there's 3 reasons that really stick out to me, or at least 2 that really stick out to me, maybe 1 hidden reason in there as well. First of all, if you want to make sure Stefon Diggs knows he was the first guy you sought after, you don't want to make him believe that you were seeking other wide receivers. Remember, it also came out earlier this offseason that we were seeking another wide receiver other than Stefon Diggs. Emmanuel Sanders came out and said that he was talking to the Buffalo Bills camp, and Brandon Beane came out and admitted this and said, yeah, we wanted to keep our options open. We reached out to Stefon Diggs first. He wanted to sleep on it or whatever have you wanted to think about it. So they reached out to Emmanuel Sanders, who was also a free agent. So that's kind of my hidden reason within these reasons. Remember, Brandon Beane did come out and say, yes, we did that. We talked to Emmanuel Sanders. We don't want to put all of our eggs in one free agency basket and then see him go someplace else, and all of a sudden we don't have conversations with other wide receivers, with other prospects. And now that gets us into the 3rd reason why Brandon Beane could have lied about this. Emmanuel Sanders, Stefon Diggs, remember, they're free agents. Sammy Watkins wasn't. He's still a year left on his contract with the Kansas City Chiefs. So maybe there were some tampering implications if Brandon Beane admitted to talking to Sammy Watkins during the offseason, because he was still under contract by the Kansas City Chiefs. So is it possible that Brandon Beane realized that if word got out that the Buffalo Bills were talking to Sammy Watkins' agent, or even the Kansas City Chiefs themselves, that they would have been breaking tampering rules and they could face some kind of fine, suspension, loss of draft pick by the NFL? Anything's possible. I'm just throwing out some of these ideas why Sammy Watkins might be honest here, might be saying, yeah, this actually did happen, and why it would be in Brandon Beane's best interest to say, no, this never happened. So let's take a look at that. But again, Brandon Beane, when first asked about Emmanuel Sanders, came out and said, yeah, you're right. We did ask other wide receivers. So one of the reasons why I say Brandon Beane didn't lie about this is that exact reason. When asked about another wide receiver, Emmanuel Sanders, he just came clean and said, yes, that's exactly what happened. We talked to Emmanuel Sanders after speaking with Stefon Diggs, because Stefon Diggs did not say he wanted to be a Buffalo Bill yet. So obviously we were going to hear from Stefon Diggs first, and then after that we were going to see if Emmanuel Sanders or another free agent wide receiver would be interested in coming to Buffalo. So why would Sammy Watkins then say that this happened if it didn't? Well, I have 3 reasons for that. First of all, like I said earlier, in the beginning of this article with Bleacher Report, Sammy Watkins says some pretty evil things, some pretty bad things about the city of Buffalo, the Buffalo Bills, not just the city and the Buffalo Bills themselves, but how he felt in the city of Buffalo, right? He talked about how he had an issue with alcoholism. He was drinking every day. He talked about how he came back from injury too soon, how he wanted to do things differently in Buffalo. And so he might want to make amends for that, and that's okay. We're all okay with that. We're all good with that. but that might be why he kind of said, yeah, the Buffalo Bills were interested. Also, players have egos. Believe it or not, especially those diva positions, those wide receivers, they have egos. They want people to think or know that they are better than what people think they are. Listen, as I said earlier, Sammy Watkins, a good 2, even a good 3 option for a team, right? A good number 3 option for a team, maybe number 4 option for a team, so that way defenses can't forget about him. But he's not a number 1 wide receiver. Sammy Watkins might still view himself as a number 1 wide receiver, and in the Kansas City Chiefs depth chart, he might be listed as their number 1 wide receiver. But when you look at Hill, when you look at Kelsey, you know he's not their first option. You know they have plenty of options that they can go to before they talk about Sammy Watkins. With Buffalo, it might be a little bit different. He might want that star put on him, and the Buffalo Bills didn't see him worth that. So that might be why the Buffalo Bills didn't seek Sammy Watkins, and that might be why Sammy Watkins might have a little bit big of a head and say, hey, no, obviously I'm a number 1 wide receiver. I had some good catches in the playoffs. I had a good week 1 game against Jacksonville, and that might propel him to think that he's a number 1 wide receiver on any team in the NFL. That's not the case. That's just not the case, Sammy. I'm sorry to break it to you. And then the third reason that I think that Sammy Watkins might have said this and lied about it, but maybe even unknowingly lied about it, maybe his agent used the fact that teams were seeking Sammy Watkins as fuel when renegotiating with the Kansas City Chiefs. This past offseason, Sammy Watkins and his agent renegotiated Sammy's contract with the Kansas City Chiefs, so he re-signed a longer deal with the Chiefs, and maybe his agent was saying, hey, you know, teams are talking to us about potentially trying to trade or potentially trying to sign a Sammy Watkins. So maybe that's something that happened. Sammy heard that and said, hey, the Buffalo Bills were asking about me. Even though that's not true, perception's reality, and that was his perception. And as you might see in the piece, if you read it on Bleacher Report, his thoughts sometimes don't equal the thoughts of other people. He definitely has some out there thoughts. He believes in aliens, things like that, believes in some other wacky things, and maybe that has to do with some of his time in Buffalo with all those drinking issues they had and things like that. But again, if he's happy, that's all that matters. He's not hurting me in any way, shape, or form. As I said at the beginning, I'm just happy it did not happen. Happy to have Stefon Diggs on this team. Again, it might have cost us a little bit more, but we weren't going to do any better in the first round this year. We got our guy Stefon Diggs. I'm happy with it. I'm sure you are too. So let me know what you think about this Sammy Watkins rumor. Let me know what you think about the Sammy Watkins Bleacher Report article. Let me know what you think about what Brandon Beane had to say. Again, I'm a little surprised he was so animate about it when it came out, but I do not believe the Buffalo Bills were seeking a Sammy Watkins, because Sammy Watkins and Stefon Diggs do not have similar playing styles at all. Stefon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, similar playing styles, similar type of wide receiver. You know, your shifty, deep threat type wide receiver. Got good speed, good route running capabilities, way to go up and get the ball, create separation. Sammy Watkins doesn't have that. Sammy Watkins is a taller wide receiver that can get those jump balls, that's doing a little bit better at getting those jump balls, and also is the type of receiver that if you forget about him, he's going to beat you, okay? And that can be said about a lot of wide receivers in the NFL. But that's my take. I don't think the Buffalo Bills went after Sammy Watkins for a bunch of different reasons, including the fact that Brandon Beane knows that if he would have done that, he might have been breaking some tampering rules. Does not want to do that in Buffalo. I trust this front office to do things clean. We have seen them do things well so far, so no reason to think that that didn't continue here. I don't think they talked to Sammy Watkins. I think that they wanted to go with Stefon Diggs or a type of receiver of that quality, and then get a taller wide receiver later in the draft like we did. But again, let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you think the Buffalo Bills went after Sammy Watkins, or do you think Sammy Watkins is simply blowing smoke? Again, I think he's blowing smoke here, whether it be intentionally or not. But thank you for joining me on this edition of Believers Talk, where we break down everything Buffalo Bills, break down this rumor, and we're going to continue to break things down this whole off season. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and again, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I look forward to talking to you all soon. Until I do, go Bills.